Hi, it's Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and I'm back with my plans and pans. Well, unfortunately, last Friday, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals in St. Louis issued an order on behalf of a half a dozen Republican officials that is intended to prohibit the Biden administration from distributing student loan money, the student loan debt relief money. It is unlikely that this is going to become the law, but until a decision is made, what they're really doing is just trying to slow everything down. So the stalling tactic is typical of what they may be trying to do, but we feel, and the administration feels pretty confident that this is going to go forward. This week, I had this great roundtable that was headed by the Secretary of Commerce, Gina, Raimondo, who came into town, I think it's her third or fourth trip to the city of Chicago, to meet with Chicago women in trades. I've been associated, or at least working with this organization for the last many years, getting more women into the construction trades, and these are most often union jobs. These are good paying jobs, and yet the percentage of women that right now still participate in the building trades and the construction trades is very low. About 3% are women. So, these Journeywomen were part of a roundtable that we did, asking a number of questions and posing some things to not only the secretary, but to myself and Chuy Garcia and Danny Davis, my colleagues in the House of Representatives, on what really needs to be done. And you won't be surprised that the answers are pretty simple. We want to make sure that there's paid leave, that there is child care, and of course, the advantage of working in the trades is that wages are higher. But a lot of women don't have the kind of backup in policy in order to be able to take the time to go out and do these full-time jobs. It is not a question of women not having the interest or the strength, but it also does have something to do with, we heard some stories about how when you're the only woman on the job in a place that is so traditionally male, then sometimes it can be somewhat intimidating. So one of the things that Chicago Women in Trades does is to help women develop the confidence to be in those kinds of settings. So it was a really great meeting, and certainly the Secretary of Commerce, Raimondo, is supportive of the work that they are doing. On Thursday, I joined Senator Durbin and the Refugee Action Network to talk about our support for the Afghan Adjustment Act. So, after the fall of Kabul last year, about 70,000 Afghan people were given temporary status in the United States of America. It was called humanitarian parole, but it is for just a short time. And so what the Afghan Adjustment Act would do is say that these people will be able to stay in the United States. Remember that many people in Afghanistan actually helped the U.S. forces there, risking their lives. They certainly, as soon as Kabul fell, were in grave danger of retribution, even death. And so we were able to bring desperate people, not just those who had worked with the United States, to come to our country. Many of them came to the Midwest, and I had the opportunity of meeting with some of the families They were housed, when I saw them, at a hotel in the northern suburbs here in the district that I represent. And as you might not be surprised, lots of kids that were there, and kids are so kids. Kids were running around and having a good time and playing, and people had dropped off toys and games. But I talked to some of the adults. For one of them, when they got to the airport to come to the United States, there was a bomb at the airport, and somehow they got separated from their children. The Afghan Adjustment Act not only would make permanent their status in the United States, but actually will provide services to bring more people, help them to evacuate from Afghanistan. My office, my district office, has done tireless work to try and bring more of these Afghan refugees to the Chicago area, get them to the United States, and has been somewhat successful in doing that. So this parole, this humanitarian parole, is going to run out probably in the middle of 2023. And so if we don't act to allow them to stay here, they could be sent back. They could certainly be sent out of the United States, but some back to Afghanistan. And that would certainly be very dangerous for them. We need to act and pass the Afghan Adjustment Act. You know, in the past, I've talked to you about the Inflation Reduction Act, but not as much as I want to about what it does for the environment. So this last week, we had a town hall meeting, an environment town hall meeting at Loyola University. It was really fantastic. It was sponsored by Loyola, but it included people from the community as well as lots of students that came. And we had a fantastic panel of experts talking about the single largest investment that the United States has ever made in history to address the climate crisis. And we're talking about $1/3 of $1 trillion that will be invested. And the goal, of course, is to reduce our carbon footprint by 40% by 2030. Ambitious, but we can be on that path. And this is not just pie in the sky. There is a plan. And let me tell you some of the things that are in the plan. So the Inflation Reduction Act will create 9 million clean jobs in our economy over the next 10 years. It will include nearly $9 billion in rebates for home energy efficiency and appliance electrification. It extends the expanded tax credit for residential roofing, for electric heating and heat pumps, so that'll help people save on their energy bills, to a significant savings on energy bills. There are tax credits to buy both used and new electric cars going forward, and what we see is a $7,500 for new cars and about $4,000 for used cars in rebates. So the key to success here is that there are incentives for people. This isn't just trying to push them into do the right thing. They're saying that you will save money, you will benefit if you engage in purchases and activities that will actually reduce our carbon footprint and address the problem of climate change. I got good news at the end of last week that NHTSA, that stands for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, had responded to letters that I've been writing that crash dummies that are used are actually discriminatory to women. They use the same crash dummies, same size, really designed for men. And believe it or not, there is a 6.3% increase in women getting injured in car crashes over men. And part of that, I'm not going to say all of that, but part of that certainly can be addressed by these crash dummies to better protect women. You know, how many times, do we have situations where whatever is designed to help humanity is designed with only men in mind? And so it looks like we're finally going to have somewhat of a victory at NHTSA to make sure that crash dummies are better suited for women drivers and reduce our hazards on the highway. One of my favorite things I got to do was to speak briefly at a naturalization ceremony. It was done at the Botanic Gardens, which is a fabulous place to be, especially because here in the Chicago area, it's almost 70 degrees there. The trees are at peak fall colors, but the naturalization ceremony was for 65 individuals from 25 countries around the world. And it is also always a very moving thing. I've been to several before, but it's just so great to see people who have made a decision to go through a lot of work. It's not easy to go through the process of becoming a citizen of the United States, and to stand with them when they are finally able to do so. I was, of course, able to tell them that I myself am first generation American, and though my parents, neither of them was around to see it, became a member of the United States Congress. And I said, see what can be accomplished. 20% of the business owners in the Chicago area are immigrants. We have such a rich and diverse community. So it was really, really great to speak to them. As you might imagine, I was saying, you have the right to vote. As soon as you become registered, which they still have to do, you have until November 8th. And so I said to them, be sure and do that and vote. And then finally, I was able to do a briefing remotely for staff in Washington on the Lymphedema Treatment Act. You know what lymphedema is? You would recognize it because a large number of women who have breast cancer within 5 years experience lymphedema, which is a very painful swelling, can be really big swelling that occurs, and can lead to all kinds of complications and problems. So I introduced the legislation. It's completely bipartisan. We have about over 320 co-sponsors on the legislation, about 70 in the Senate. It passed out of the Energy and Commerce Committee. That's the committee that I'm on, with this incredible bipartisan support. It's not only because of breast cancer, it is the swelling. There is no cure, but there is an important treatment, and those are compression garments. You've seen that, right? You'd be amazed how important those are. And yet Medicare does not cover that, and lots of insurance policies don't either. But Medicare does not cover that. And it's because there is not the right designation that would allow that compression garment to be covered. So we have the votes. We know that we can pass the bill. The only question is, are we going to get it done this year? The budget office actually admitted that we would save more money on health care, more money on Medicare, if we were able to have compression garments covered. And so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to move forward with that. So it's been a busy week. And I want to just tell you about COVID. I mentioned last week, but just to remind you again, that children 5 and older are eligible to have the boosters, protect for the Omicron variant. So you should be thinking about that. And Cook County remains in the green low transmission category, which is very good. But I still know friends of mine who have been quarantined because of COVID. And finally, let me just say that to a happy Diwali to our friends in the Indian communities, and may your day be bright. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where my handle is @Jan Schakowsky.